One of the things that I love about Sober Life Rocks is that we embrace people who are on all different spectrums of the journey of sober curiosity, all the way up to not choosing not to drink. And today's guest is somebody who is on that spectrum for a different reason than recovery. I'm so excited to have you join us for this podcast.
Welcome to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. Whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you, and you are not alone. In today's world, networking, socializing, and celebrations often happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. Through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you, who choose not to drink or drink less, can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice.
Before we get started, Sober Life Rocks is hosting a conference, Amplify Sober Voices, on January 15th, 2026, where we're bringing together influencers, speakers, writers, and podcasters to reimagine what a truly inclusive alcohol-optional world looks like. And if you're interested in being part of the growing movement we're seeing, we would love to have you join us. Learn more at amplifysobervoices.com. My guest today is Gary Harker. He's a tax and legal consultant who not only educates individuals on reducing tax liabilities and protecting their loved ones, but also connects them with trusted solutions. As both a business owner and contracted employee, he understands the financial challenges many face. Strategic guidance and partnerships, he helps clients take real action towards securing their financial future. Gary, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Margie. It's a pleasure to be here. Really great to get to know you more and have this conversation. So I'm really excited.
Absolutely. Well, on a more personal note, sorry about stumbling on your professional, but on a more personal note, one thing I know about you is that you just celebrated 20 years of marriage. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And have a beautiful family. And Yep. You are part of the LDS faith.
That's correct. Yep.
So tell me more about that, because I think people have a lot of misconceptions about Mormons and all of that. So I'd love to just kind of understand more from your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was born and raised in the LDS Church. I'm still part of the LDS Church. It's called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I say that to help people recognize that, yes, we believe in Jesus Christ. We definitely would say we are Christians, number one. I know that some Christian churches are like, is it really the same Jesus? They have their own Jesus. It's the same Jesus. I understand you might view it differently, but it's the same dude. Okay, so my journey has just been, I tell people that if you grow up in the LDS faith and you're a young man, you get baptized when you're 8 years old. At 12 years old, you are given the Aaronic priesthood, and there's certain things you just have to be like worthy of it. Let's say, just live in accordance with how Jesus would want you to live. And then at 14, you get another 16. So you get this, you get more responsibilities the older you get, right? It's like the gift of talents. You get one talent, and if you do well with that, you get more talents. And so same idea, we're all given the opportunity to have that. And then at 19 years old, I decided to serve an LDS mission. And what that looks like is you volunteer. In fact, you get to pay your own way to go and have people spit at you and throw rocks at you and tell you don't believe in the right Jesus. So that's a really fun experience. I think everyone should do it. No, the fun part about that is you're teaching basic principles that the church believes in and that you have a testimony of. That's the hope, at least. Let's be honest, at 19, you're riding the coattails of the testimony of your parents for a large portion of that. I think I had a small portion of I had myself, but my testimony grew tremendously of my relationship with Jesus Christ and with God. And when I got home, after teaching all these people these wonderful things, I started to really be tested like anybody else. Tested with girls, tested with drinking, tested with professions, tested with all these different things that, quite frankly, I did not think was a big deal, because if you grow up, depending upon where you grow up, like I grew up in Utah, where that's like saying I'm Catholic and I'm from Italy. It's like, no
Yeah.
duh. That's kind of, it goes with the territory, right? And so when you get into the professional world, you're like, holy cow, like I'm not surrounded by people who have similar faith beliefs that I do. I've got to really solidify what I believe in. And yeah, so that's,
Now, is it true that Mormons are not supposed to drink, or is that just sort of a choice within the lifestyle of living clean and sacred?
it's a great question. The running joke in the culture is you can tell a good Mormon versus a bad Mormon based upon the temperature of their caffeine. So what I mean by that is this: the LDS Church teaches to abstain from alcohol. It also teaches to abstain from coffee and tea, but you can have as much energy drinks as you want, right? So it's not true. They just want you to, the whole thing is called the Word of Wisdom. It comes from a book called The Doctrine and Covenants. There are multiple sections of that, but in one section, it talks about the Word of Wisdom, and it discusses not only should abstain from these things, but also it should eat fruits and vegetables in their season, right? Eat meat sparingly. So vegetarian friends, they love us. Carnivore people, not so much. But if you look at what's really interesting, it says it's saying don't chew tobacco, don't smoke. And all of these things were written back in, I think it was like 1844 to 1850, somewhere in between there. Don't quote me, I'm not a scriptorian. But the point is, it says to abstain from those things. And in that time, everybody was doing it. And so it's really not until recently, I would say between the 60s and 80s, again, don't quote me on these dates, but it's when we recognize that, hey, smoking is not good for you. I remember when it was a weight loss product in the 50s, right? So it's like smoking is not good for you. And then recently, it's been, hey, alcohol is not really good for us. Where it used to be a glass of wine a day isn't that bad. I mean, you're still good. And what I go back to is in the Bible, it says, by the fruits you shall know them, right? So you can know if a prophet's good or not based upon the fruits. And Joseph Smith, in that 1844 to 1850, he wrote this thing about drugs and alcohol. And it took over a century and almost a century and a half, nearly 2 centuries, to recognize that what he wrote has validity. You're like, crap, maybe I should give credence sometimes. As much as I want to say, dog him and say he's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Well, it's a little
I'm
bit
not
like
here to convert people, but I'm just telling you that's.
yeah, the Old Testament laws back in Deuteronomy talked about not eating pork.
Right.
Well, now we understand they didn't have refrigeration back then. And so the laws were there to protect them from like horrible food poisoning and diseases.
That's the
So,
whole
yes.
idea behind it. You're right. It's just to protect. And I think there's individuals who say, well, I handle my liquor well, so I should be okay. Or this rule is built for the masses, but I'm part of the small percentage that I'm okay. And those are reasons why I've justified it myself for wanting to drink too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, for a minute ago, you started saying that once you kind of got back into the business world, all of a sudden
Yeah.
you were surrounded by people who had not grown up in the LDS world. You were traveling and going to conferences and so forth.
Yeah.
So, what was that like for you at first? Suddenly seeing alcohol not only normalized, but truly like the thing that bonds people.
Yeah, so I was lucky in a sense early on. When I started traveling, I was in the fitness world. And so in the fitness world, um, I'll tell you, the United States is further advanced than overseas, where even in the fitness world, they were saying you probably shouldn't drink soda in the United States, right? Because of the sugar content. Where in Europe and other countries, they're like, why? This doesn't make any sense. So just in that realm. But it was very much after you spoke or after you did a conference or whatnot, you're right. You would get food is a huge deal. And if once you're full of food, it feels like you can drink your body weight. So it's like the alcohol percentage. So it was when you go to Germany, for example, it was very common that, hey, would you like some beer? If you go to Spain and Italy, hey, would you like some wine? And when you didn't, they looked at you and it's just taken aback a little bit, saying, really? I will tell you though, when I was expressing to them, hey, based upon my religious beliefs, I just don't do that, they were very respectful. But that doesn't mean they didn't stop themselves, right?
Yeah.
So everyone was very respectful of my decisions, but at some point it came to, I could no longer, I just didn't feel comfortable saying, I don't do this because of the church tells me I can't. It had to be a personal decision. And quite frankly, I didn't make that personal decision. I was relying on this institution to tell me what I could and couldn't do. So when it came to me making my own decisions, I started to drink, and I started to not tell people I was part of the church because I didn't want other members who were not drinking to recognize that I was, and then them being persuaded or being me for being judged. And so now I was in this realm of uncertainty. But I did it not to necessarily fit in with other people. I did it because I felt that it wasn't a bad thing. I didn't think there was anything bad in it. I was 31 when I had my first glass of wine, and it tasted like flavored rubbing alcohol, but I kept going. So I was in
You know what's
Spain.
so
I'm like, you
funny?
have to
All
drink
of our
wine in Spain, right? And I'm
all of
like,
our
this is
first drinks are always that way. They're always
ah,
like, ah,
it was so
and it's
nasty.
like I remember being a teenager and trying tab soda for the first time. And it was disgusting, but
Yeah,
all the girls were doing it. So I just like choked that tab down.
that right.
And I never liked it, but I did it because that's what you did. Same story
Cultural
with alcohol. It's
association.
like
Yeah,
at
for sure.
first, just ah,
Yeah, I thought it would make a difference. I got to be honest with you. So for the last, for about 10, 11 years, I would drink very rarely, but it would be mostly socially, never drank at home. Um, but I will say that I don't believe my drinking affected my inclusion or exclusion. As much as I thought that I would feel more included by drinking, it was just my own personal belief. It wasn't how people received me. I never felt like I was being excluded because I said, "Hey guys, I don't drink. I'll just take a soda. I'll take a water." I I don't think people looked down on me, but I also didn't feel like I was part of what they were doing. And then when I started to drink, I thought, "Hey, it was more of what I felt internally more than what externally was occurring." Does that make
that
sense?
is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because for those of us who come to it from a place of recovery, there is real stigma around recovery still to this day. It's getting so much better, but we
Okay.
also carry that internal
Yeah.
anxiety theme around it. But if you've grown up in a community where it's just normal not to drink, and you think once you get out into the big bad world and you'll be more accepted, and you don't feel more accepted, that's fascinating. I'm so
Didn't
glad you
make a
shared that.
difference. In fact, I'll tell you a fun story. So my wife and I got married in Utah. She's a member of the faith as well, and we had a party. My wife's from Mexico City, so we went to Mexico City and had like a wedding reception down there. And her family put it on. She has a lot of family down there, and we partied till like 2 a.m. And we got done with the party, and the host, like the event center, came to us and said, "How did you guys have so much fun without alcohol?" It's like we didn't know this was possible. Like, you're the first group that we're aware of that has had a party without alcohol, and you guys all had a good time. Like, how do you do
Isn't that
that?
amazing? That's amazing.
It's weird how some people feel like I have to be drunk to release my inhibition so I can be me. I'm not me without my beverage. I think it's just I once you've experienced it, it's like, wow, okay, we're good. And I can remember it, and I can still hold my head up high, and I'm not, look, I think every one of us has done some really stupid things in our life. It's nice to remember the stupid things so we don't repeat them though, right?
Gary, that is amazing. Another mic drop moment from you.
Yeah,
So,
it's life. We get it. We're good.
so tell me about the moment that you actually decided that it was no longer serving you.
So funny story. Uh, let's go back. So if we go back, I gotta go through the shit first before we go to that part. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to do
I
this
love serving
because
up some shit.
the alcohol very closely cost me my marriage,
Mm.
right? And so we were, shoot, it was probably 2 years after my first drink. And I'm very transparent. I told my wife, didn't try to hide anything from her, but this is what's going on. And we went to a therapist, and the therapist said, "Hey, Gary, the problem is that you're drinking." I don't think it was, but for her it was, and for them it was. But it was just the doubt that I had in myself. And I'm like, you know what? Well, if she doesn't love me because I drink, then maybe she doesn't really love me. Right. And what I didn't recognize is, for me, this is not for everybody, but I definitely think for me is there was a part of me that I didn't accept myself very much. And so I was self-sabotaging. And so I was looking for a way to validate that my wife didn't really love me, even though she said she did. So if I put up all these things to say, you really don't love me, I was waiting for the gotcha moment where she says, okay, I'm finally leaving because of this. And she stayed. And I'm like, okay. And then more shit happened and it dog's pile, and every reason why you can think of why a woman would leave their man has happened. And she's stuck by me. She says, I don't love you anymore, but I'm willing to fight for it.
Mm.
And I've always wondered, and I talked to her, I said, I don't know why I drink. I don't know. There's no real value in it for me. It's just I do because I want to feel like I'm an adult because it's an adult beverage. So an adult should have an adult beverage, right? And so the moment that kind of triggered it, I don't know if there was a moment, but there was a sequence of events. And part of that was um, being on stage last year at a conference and having your partner stand up there on stage sitting next to me. I have no idea who this person is because I'd never met her before. I'm terrible with names. Sitting next to her, and we have a freaking ball next to each other. And then I get off stage, and people are like, "Do you know who that was?" I'm like, I have no idea, but she's freaking cool. Like, we're having a good time. She's like, "You just met so and so." I still don't remember her name, but I just remember we had such a good time, and I vibed with her. And we went out in the hall, and we talked about other things, and I talked about my emotional journey up and down. But that was a point where me said, "Say, look, it's culturally accepted, and we're trying to create this movement." And I said, "You know what? I can be part of that. I can be part of this movement. I know what life's like without alcohol. I know what life's like with alcohol. I tell you what, we make a lot better financial decisions for our future when we're sober. We also make a lot better decisions for our emotional and spiritual health when we're sober. And we mask a lot of that. We almost feel like we're more emotionally, mentally stable when we're on alcohol, when we're drinking. I cannot, going backwards, I can say that I had a good time when I drank, but I can't say that that was a productive time in my life when I did.
So are you saying that it was sitting next to Laura Nelson from Sober Life Rocks
Well,
that
it was a
got
big
you
trigger.
that
It
got
was a
you to
big
sort of
trigger because
wake up
it,
and
it was because you sit down with so I had multiple conversations with my brothers and their wife, and my wife sitting next to me, and they're like, "Are you telling me you love alcohol more than your family?" And I was just like giving him the finger, walking away. I'm like, really? We're going to boil it down to that? It's that simple?
yeah.
And I tell you what, if you're a sober person and you want to help someone not drink, don't do that. Okay, it's not going to help. It's really
We get
not.
the resistance legs right up there going,
Right?
nope.
You're like, are you that big of a dick that you're going to do that? Seriously? You're going to do that right now to her? You're such an yeah. So, like, it's like, no, that's like, you don't understand. Frankly, I didn't understand either. And so last summer, so that was not the start. So my having those conversations with family, having the conversation with my wife, having this in a professional atmosphere, and then the other thing that really ticked it off was I was always transparent with my leaders in my church. And if you're drinking if you're escalating, you shouldn't be going to what they call the temple, which is a sacred place that you really are there to receive revelation. If you're drinking alcohol, I will tell you, it absolutely affects your communication with the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So why would you want to volunteer to go to a place where there's a connection with the divine if you're purposefully blocking that connection?
Bring the veil over. Yep.
Right? And so I wasn't going, and it didn't really, I'm like, hey, I'm not missing out on much because I'm not going anyway. So why might as well eat, drink, and be merry. And over the summer, I went to a summer camp with youth, and I was the cook. So I was Chef Boyarding for them, and it was really fun. And I got done and had a really good experience with them and good leaders. And the leader of my neighborhood, he's called a bishop for us, just a small congregation. He called me in, and I just said, hey, look, this is where I'm at, and I want to get back to going to the temple. What do I need to do? And I said, I really want to stop drinking. And so that's the date where I really started to decide on it. And since September of 2024, I haven't had a drink. And I will say, backing up, I go to over 80 conferences a year. And the most opportune time to drink is when you're at a conference because it's free. You go to Delta Sky Club, free drinks. You go to the event, they're free. In fact, if you go to Delta Sky Club and you say, hey, you make a Moscow Mule with ginger beer, with lime, and with vodka, right? Can I just get a ginger beer? That's $3, sir. I'm like, $3 for a ginger beer? Okay, can I just get a Moscow Mule without the Moscow, just the mule? Like, it's $3. I'm like, you're going to charge me because I didn't buy alcohol. So it was easier to get drinks for free than to request to pay for a drink.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That's what we live with when we travel. Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
and even the language around, hey, let's meet up at the bar. Hey, let's meet up for happy hour. Like,
yeah.
Hey, where's the after party? I mean, it's not meant to impose drinking on you, and yet it's the language that we use.
Mm-hmm. Can I buy you a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a source of, it's become for generations, it's been more of a term of endearment. Hey, can I buy you a drink? I care about you. Can I get you drunk?
Yeah.
No, it's not. They're not asking that. They're just saying, hey, I care about you. This is a professional courtesy. Can I get you a drink? Right. And I cannot tell you, again, going back, it's the self-judgment. Do you know what it was like going to this international conference? Everybody's drinking beer. Hey, can I get you a drink? Yeah. Can I get a Sprite? It's like, internally, I'm thinking, who invited the 12-year-old? Like, the 12-year-old wants to have the seat at the table? Like, that was the perception that I had going to those meetings. And when they asked me for a drink, and I said, I'll take a Sprite with the Marciano cherry, please. I would like a Shirley Temple, if you will. That's what you live with. So it does. Externally, I don't think they care, but internally, that's the communication that I was having with myself.
Yeah. So, Gary, thank you for sharing all of this. This is amazing. I would love, with our last bit of time, then, for you to talk with us about how do we care for that inner voice? How do we heal from those messages? Because everything you've said so far reinforces what I believe, which is that we're living our own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody else is looking at me having my club soda with a lime, they may or may not be having some experience about me, but I'm putting that on myself. I'm imagining that they are, and I'm feeling the less than or different than or being at the kiddie table with my drink or whatever. So how do we heal that or address that?
It's a really good question. And actually, I've done a lot of work on that. So I appreciate you asking me that question. I think inherently you have to recognize who you are as an individual. and this is going to go back full circle with this conversation, but you have to recognize or choose to land your anchor or your value based upon a power outside of yourself. And what I mean by that is something internally inside of you. Like we talk about chi, you talk about yin and yang, you talk about all of these different energies, or you can talk about God, or you can talk Holy Spirit, you name it. But there is something, a power that is outside of yourself that loves you just the way that you are. And if you look towards that direction, which is internally, and recognize that you're loved intrinsically without having to do anything, just by being who you are a lovable human being and you are living a human experience. And if you look for validation externally, to friends, to family, to associates, to try to fill your canteen of love, you will only be able to receive the love from other people to the extent that you love yourself internally. Okay, so love yourself first. Recognize, despite your human decisions that you have externally that people see, despite whatever you feel like they're going to think and react to, if you're whole and you're good on the inside, the people that truly do love you for who you are will gravitate to you. You will attract the people that were going to enhance your life. Don't be worried to let go of 4 or 5 close friends that you feel are close because you're living true to yourself. I think that is the biggest difficulty that people have when they decide to live any change in their life, whether it's going more towards I'll just use my example. I chose to drink alcohol. Guess what? By choice, by choosing to do that, I pushed away people who did not want to associate with people who drank. Okay. The opposite holds true. Because I choose not to drink, I'm attracting people who are like-minded. And so as you make those decisions that are to you, what you believe is right, you're going to attract the people who are going to enhance whatever you believe about yourself.
I mean, that's how you and I met. We were at Podfest, and we somehow got connected, and as people who were interested in this world of, sober choices and being able to be celebrated for who you are, and we might not have otherwise met.
That's right. I sure wish that people at those conferences would offer sober choices, beverages that I didn't have to pay for, that they're willing to pay for a bottle of beer, but they won't pay for a bottle of water or a bottle of Sprite or a bottle of Dr. Pepper. That's my beverage of choice. If everyone wants to know, you can send me gift cards for Dr. Pepper and Mountain Dew anytime you'd like.
Back to the temperature of your caffeine.
Yes. This is healthy. Healthy. Anyway.
Amazing. Gary, I want to make sure that we circle back to kind of who you are as a business person, because one of the things that I remember talking about when you and I first met, this was back in January, was how you weave this compassion and this heart-centered approach into your business. So just share with us a little bit about, like, now translating all that you have talked about yourself and your journey into how you do business.
So I'm the same guy when I talk about this, when we talk business. So I don't wear different, you're not seeing a different side of me. In fact, I'm very, my wife would call it immature, but I think it's just very authentic and just open. I don't try to, like, you're going to get the full story, whether you want it or not. So some people don't like that, but I will just say that comes from a place of integrity. I think if you're honest with yourself, it's really easy to be honest with others. And when you're honest with others, people gravitate to that, saying, hey, look, I can't tell you how many times I meet with people in the finance world that they feel like they're being jaded, or they're not getting the full story, or they're not getting communication. Something's being hidden. Oh, I don't know how to share bad news. In finance world, very rarely when someone talks taxes to you, are they excited to have a conversation. They're like, oh, can't wait to talk to my tax guy. He's going to show me how much money I owe in taxes. And so I found that the more transparent and open you are with them, saying, this is where you're at, this is what you need to do, it's blunt, it's truth. And I put them in contact with the people who are going to help them the best. And so I still maintain the communication with them. So if they're talking with person A, B, or C, it doesn't matter. Conversations will go direct to them, but I also say, hey, you can contact me anytime, because I hold the people around me with accountability too, to ensure that you guys are getting the right, just straightforward care. I think that's the most
Yeah.
important thing.
And you don't often associate somebody in the finance or tax world with heart. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you.
Yeah, it's you don't. It's all numbers. Most people, it's numbers. Yeah, I do legal and tax consultant, and most people don't think high integrity when they look at both of those things, and they just think, hey, you're out there to make a buck. You're out there to do this, and so there's a dogma, a negative effect of that. We met at Dental Podfest, so the same thing kind of holds true. From a client to a dentist, many clients believe that dentists overcharge, quote unquote, right? It's like, you're charging too much. And it's like, well, you are, even though it's a filling or a root canal, that root canal might be $1,000. Yes, but you're not paying for the procedure, you're paying for the education that goes behind it. And I think oftentimes professionals that don't understand what the accountants do. There are accountants, let's be honest, that take a weekend course and they're your CPA. They're also usually very compliant. So you want to find somebody who's invested, they've put years into it. So I will say that the lower level that I said that do weekend, they're not CPAs, they're actually tax preparers. You have to do about 150 hours of work in order to be a CPA. And if you want to be a tax attorney, you can like triple that. And if you want to go into real advanced tax strategies, now you're looking at years and years. So you will, don't just shop on price if you're going to be looking for a professional that wants to help you. You've got to shop off of value and what they're bringing to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary, I'm so grateful for you coming on this podcast. As we wrap this up, I really kind of want to bring back to the beginning the idea that we celebrate people who are making intentional choices about their life and looking at their relationship with alcohol and whether or not it serves them. And for some people, it's sober curious. In your case, it was actually alcohol curious.
I was,
which I think
yeah, for sure.
is really so interesting.
Yeah.
But some of the nuggets that I took away are like that you realized that you weren't being left out whether you drank or not, that was an inside job.
Totally an inside job.
Yeah. And
Yep.
that is just a message that I feel like everybody needs to hear and everybody needs to internalize, because we imagine so many conversations that are happening in somebody else's head that really aren't even happening.
Right.
So here's your challenge to those of you listening is take a moment, and next time you order something doesn't have alcohol in it, feel that joy for making choices for yourself. Feel that you're honoring yourself and your health and your wellness. And know that you're not alone, that there are many, many of us out there, and we support you and applaud you. And remember, this conversation doesn't stop here. Join us at Amplify Sober Voices. Get all the details and register at amplifysobervoices.com, because embracing sober choices is not just a personal choice, but a movement towards healthier and more inclusive communities. Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. Very welcome.